Mummy, why is your brain so soft? Well, dear, I watch mainstream television that fills my brain up with crap. Soaps such as Recton Enders and Boring Nation Street. I also watch Mr. Attenborough and also Dr. Brian's cock, who tells me meaningless drivel that I automatically believe without question. Those brains that watch mainstream are as soft as your thoughts with mainstream propaganda.
Good evening, and I'm sorry about the gag. And I'd like to say welcome to Patrick, who's actually in America. I believe you're in a state in America.
I'm in Wisconsin. Yeah, pretty much. Wisconsin. Okay. Yeah.
And Paul, sorry, you was going to say, Patrick, sorry.
It's the home of the Republican Party.
Ah, is it?
Yes.
So you got plenty of Trump around there, you know.
Well, it's a bit of both. I'll put it. You know, it's about split.
Ah, and we've got Paul English tonight as well. Evening, Paul.
Evening, Eric. Evening, Patrick. I'm not in Wisconsin.
No, you're in the Fockham Embassy, I believe, aren't you? Down in
I'm in an outpost of the extended Greater Fockham Hall Empire. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm dealing with belligerents on my doorstep and trying to safeguard the realm. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I can see them coming in by now. There are boatloads of them, but I'm just priming up the 16-inch guns. So we've got to sort this mess out. Yep. Sorry about that, everybody. Yep.
And Patrick, I believe you're in a Fockham outpost as well, aren't you? I think you're the Fockham cultural attaché, aren't you? Or
yep. If you've ever seen the movie Zulu, that's about right. Yeah.
Ah, yes. Or you could be a vegetarian representative. Yes, or shall we say non-vegetarian representative? That would be an idea, wouldn't it? You know.
Well, where I'm from is considered cheese land, so it's plenty of cheese. Yeah.
Oh.
It's all to do with cheese. It's all to do with cheese, you know.
Well, tonight's show is Eco-Commie-Call, which can be interpreted either way. Doesn't matter which way you want to interpret it. But the photograph on the front of this show is Stevenage New Town, which is in Hertfordshire. And have you ever been there, Paul? Or I know Patrick hasn't been there.
No, but I think we're picking up a bit too much sound from Patrick, aren't we, at the moment?
Yes. That's it. He's done his microphone. But no, have you ever been to Stevenage, the centre of civilization in Hertfordshire as we know it?
I don't know. Now hang on just a minute. Where's the place where they have all the rock things outdoors? Is that near Stevenage? Or
Nebworth.
Have I got?
Yeah, that's Nebworth. Yeah, that's just
the Nebworth's.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've been to Nebworth.
Yeah.
With 200,000 other people, but I don't really remember Stevenage much. Although I probably must have gone through the railway station. Right, that was in 1979, so quite recently. Yes, I was in Stevenage 45 years ago. So quite recently, really. It can't have changed too much, can it? Really?
I don't think they employ street cleaners. So I think there's just another sort of, shall we say, a couple of feet of filth on the ground, you know. But
right.
Stevenage, it was designed and built. Well, it was actually designed by a manic depressive on the back of a fag packet. On a wet Sunday afternoon, whilst he's on a downer, because that's what it looked like. And they started it in 1950, and it is just a typical new town. It's just concrete everywhere, bland, more bland, and extremely bland. And I've been looking at films. I didn't have time I would have downloaded it if I'd have had time. Which someone was interviewing people in the street in 1965, and they're saying, well, the trouble is it all looks the same. That was in 1965.
Yes.
And, you take a picture of Stevenage, and it's all this kind of concrete everywhere, and these really peculiar statues. And when I've worked in Stevenage 3 times, And when I worked there, one Monday morning, I parked my car up and I was just walking through the town, and there's this big sort of like Henry Moore statue. It looked like a blob, you know what I mean, with very small head, big body, women's breasts, and sort of giant haystacks arms. And
Gosh, sounds quite exciting.
It actually made the television because remember Esther Ranson's That's Life, or Esther Ranson?
I do. I also remember Esther Ranson's teeth, but I do remember That's Life. Yes, I do.
And what was happening was some people had complained to Stevenage Borough Council. They said all they can see is bums because this statue appeared over the weekend. And when they looked out their office window, all they could see was these great big bum of this statue. Well, anyway, I used to enjoy going to work on Monday morning, not because I enjoyed what I was doing. It's because people over the weekend used to adore this statue. And what they used to do is put a piece of chewing gum where its mouth is and put a cigarette on it, and then they did all sort of illustrations. But the best one was what someone did with a carrot and 2 ping pong balls and some chewing gum. I could get over that one. And people were writing all comments on it, and in the end, and I mean, I wouldn't dream of doing such a thing because I'm a good little boy, and. And in the end, the statue sort of disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to it. And apparently, someone climbed up and they took a picture of a council depot, and there it is in the council depot because because I suppose they got fed up with cleaning off all the comments that people put on it. But it's a typical new town with meaningless satanic art everywhere, and things like First Avenue and Second Avenue and Third Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible. But I guess have you got anything like that near you, Paul or Patrick?
What wonderful things!
Yes,
wonderful statues and things.
Yeah,
I think we've kind of escaped. We've kind of escaped here. We're a little, very sleepy seaside town. And I think there are a few hideous things around here. Actually, I just found out the other day, Eric, that we've got a speaker's corner here.
Really?
Yeah, we do. We actually have one. There's a platform for free speech. It's on a jetty that goes 1,500 yards out into the sea. No, it doesn't. It's just it's on the coast there. It's only got room for one person. You have to shout very loud from out in the middle of the ocean so that people can hear you. No, I forgot. It's a place called Splash Point, where there's lots of splashing from the waves or something. So you get drenched in huge towering waves, but it provides a dramatic backdrop to your fantastic speech. Yeah, no, I'm thinking of going and using it, actually.
Good idea. Why not film it? That'd be a good idea.
Yeah, no, I would. Yeah, I would. Of course, I will be going in disguise. We'll have to spend several hours in makeup before making a public appearance because I've got some excellent false beards and very large hats. So that's what I'd be lucky to do. But in terms of hideous obelisks and things like that, oh, mind you, we do have an obelisk. Yeah, we've got the old sort of micro Cleopatra's Needle somewhere, a sort of mini version of it somewhere on the seafront. I think that might be a World War I memorial, something like that. They seem to use those for that. But in terms of, no, I mean, there's some pretty crappy buildings going up. There's one that's gone up in the last 10 years that's completely circular, and it's an office. And I just thought, I bet everybody gets driven mad in there. You need cubby holes. I mean, the whole purpose of working in an office is to hide from the boss. And if you actually remove that, it takes all the fun out of it, doesn't it? I mean, people probably just have to see each other all day long, but yeah.
What we really want is people in chat we want to have the most crappiest sculpture in their area or the crappiest building. So please mention it in chat, far away, because we're trying to find a winner here, a real humdinger. And,
we don't have any sculpture in our town, unfortunately. Or maybe fortunately for us, it depends on who's commissioning it. But the building where I work is an old. Most of the buildings that are any good around here are from the 1930s and before that time. So There are a lot of century farms around here. Like I said, the place I work at was built in 1926, and it was an Oddfellows Lodge at one point that turned into a vaudeville theater and then a movie theater and then a post office before we moved in. But yeah, it's nothing. You know, we have the public school, which looks like a prison. It was designed just a ugly brick building. Most of these public government schools are more like prisons than they are of anything of art. We had one that was built in the 20s that they tore down that actually had some character to it, but apparently they didn't like it, so they tore it down and built a monstrosity looking thing. And I don't know. I suppose you have a lot of these apartment flats where it's just like they stack people in like sardines, like in the Soviet flat type architecture, the Bauhaus type stuff.
Yep. There's a lot of that.
It's terrible.
There is a lot of that. It is.
Soul
Although
killing.
there was a pub along the seafront here which has disappeared. I sort of arrived here not knowing the town, but when we got in, my wife knew it very well. She'd sort of been a student here back in the late 70s, I think it was. So that's why we kind of moved here, because she had good, fond memories of it. And when we first got here, it was like Warmington-on-Sea, which won't mean much to American listeners, but Warmington-on-Sea is this fictitious town that appeared in this TV comedy series called Dad's Army, which was about the Home Guard here during World War II, full of all these sort of British archetypal comedy figures, you know, the vicar and the stern butcher and all these sorts of... Actually, he wasn't stern, he was kind of loopy, was the butcher, but he was lots of fun.
Yeah.
So when we moved here... Yeah, the greengrocers and all that kind of stuff. And I'll give you a little bit more of extra tripe, Mrs. Smith, and all that kind of stuff. So it was a bit like that. But there was a pub here called the Lytton Tree. They pulled that down. And so I braced myself for junk going up. And they didn't put junk up. Every now and again, a building will go up. These are apartment blocks that are not junk. And this one has made an attempt at sort of neo-Georgian, neo-Edwardian, classical that kind of stuff. The sort of thing that makes architectural critics puke as they go, it's quiche or something like that, but actually which normal people like because there's an attempt to kind of beautify the front of it or to provide interesting things that catch the eye. So there's that. But the disaster was that we had... I've forgotten the name of the hotel now, although I did go down there for a riotous party to celebrate our next-door neighbour's 100th birthday about 15 years ago. Yeah, she said, right, I'm having 100th, you better come. Amazing woman, Margaret, absolutely amazing, an amazing woman, seriously. One of those sorts of women that could have easily run the British Empire whilst making a suet pudding at the same time. She was highly competent. She was fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely brilliant. Very dictatorial. Loved her. Absolutely loved her. She was wonderful. A real character. Yeah.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. Now, look here, you all this. Yeah, no, don't stand there. All that kind of stuff. It's very directed. All the communication is very much got instruction sets in it all the time. You know, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. I love it. It's fantastically fun. And she, anyway, I forgot the name of the hotel, but it was just fabulous because it was Art Deco. I like Art Deco, right? And it had this massive rotating door at the front of the lobby, and it was really big. I think it was about 6 feet across each side of it, so it's 12 feet wide. The whole thing was really, really big, and the desk was ancient with like a 40-foot. Or it was a 40-foot strip of oak. I'm not saying it was one lump of oak, but the desk must have been about 40 foot long, and all these old keys. And when I went up the stairs, all the floorboards creaked, and I just fell in love with it. I just went, oh, this is great. So, of course, that had to come down, and it's now a Holiday Inn or something like that. No, it's a Premier Inn, and it's a box. It's just glass and steel, and it's junk. And so every now and again they do that. But there's still a line of... I think they're Edwardian houses, and they must have been amazing when they were built because they're on 6 floors, including the cellar.
Wow.
There's 6 floors. So there's a cellar, there's a loft, which is converted right in the eaves. And they've got these magnificent chimneys at the top because obviously everybody stayed warm using coal, the proper fuel source for Britain. Lots of smog. Bring back this smog. And the character and the coughing and the murderers on the corner and Sherlock Holmes hopping around in the darkness. That's what we want. We want that back. Yeah. But
old-fashioned diseases as well. You know, we
want the proper ones. We want the proper diseases. Yes, please.
We don't want these bloody artificial ones. We were really happy when we had bronchitis. You know, we
bloody loved it.
Yeah.
I bloody loved bronchitis. Oh, that was a disease for you. None of these modern junk diseases. That was a proper one. That was great.
But it's funny because we got some comments in chat. Shall we have a quick whiz? We've got Mark Anthony. Good evening, Chris. Hope you're well. Yeah, you were the first on. It's very clean. 7:46. I think he gets the brownie points this week, doesn't he? He's very, very keen. Got Sue Coe. Hello, Sue, everyone. Hello, everyone. And we got
hello, Sue.
We got her editor's Getfoot, outside gallery, Leeds, Henry Moore. Oh, bloody hell, Henry Moore, don't start me off. He lives around where I live, actually. Very poor. It is still there. Henry Moore, I think he got his inspiration from dog poo, didn't he? Sort of saw a pile of it on the street and thought, I think I'll increase the size of that, so I'll make a big statue of it, you know. He actually lived not far from me because he lived in Hertfordshire, didn't he, Henry Moore? DJ Flip.
Did he?
Oh, by the way, thanks, DJ Flipped. Sorry about last night's show. Everything possible to go wrong last night on Rumble did go wrong. The chat didn't work. What else didn't work? Couldn't get through the guest. Apart from that, it was all right. And we got one of the early episodes of The Saint with Roger Moore was based in Stevenage. I assume when it was a new town. I think it was early 60s. Yeah, well, they started building it in 1950. And there was a film made there called Here We Go Round the Mulberry Bush, made in the swinging 60s in 1967. And the chap that used to be in Doctor in Charge, I think it was, he was in it, Barry, whatever his name is, who died very mysteriously. They still haven't solved, he died very, very mysteriously. Now we've got Suko says the town I live in has seen a DWP building going up. That's for Patrick. That's the Department of Work and Pensions building going up, which is an ugly thing. A new Holiday Inn made of a lump of concrete. But we do have Blackpool Tower and Building Beautiful, the Grand Theatre. So you're up in what was it? Flat Caps and Flat Cap Land, I think that is, isn't it? Blackpool.
Yeah, they've all got whippets. They've all got whippets. Sorry, Patrick.
Good evening, mate.
It reminds me, we've got Social Security buildings that are just a flat brick wall, grayish looking thing and they're all the same wherever you go around the country. They're just this ugly looking wall structure. So.
Well, it's funny you should say that because when I worked in Stevenage for the how many times? Well, I worked in an architect's office that was at the top of this. Well, it looked like a cornflake packet. It's just one of these square 60s bland office blocks, you see. And the downstairs was a Department of Work and Pensions. So you sort of went in the foyer and went up the lift and, went out to the top, you see. Well, I was a contract bloke, so I walked in on Monday morning. I started midweek. That was it. Sorry, not Monday morning. And because I needed someone desperately. And the day before, some poor sod who'd gone into the Department of Work and Pensions had had enough, walked up the stairs or coming up the lift, went into the office, and the woman at the reception said, "Can I help you?" And he was in a sort of a trance, walked straight past her, went into the office, opened the window and threw himself out. And they said, "Oh, he can work there," where his bloke threw himself out the window. I thought, charming. But that was sort of
That reminds me. There's
yeah.
Eric. There's a Monty Python sketch. Do you remember that where they're throwing themselves out of the window and they start taking bets on who's going to throw themselves out of the window next? Do you remember that one?
Scotsman? I remember the one with the Scotsman committing Harry Carey, where they're all queuing up.
Oh yeah, no, there was a lot of suicide sketches.
Yeah.
No, it's a different suicide sketch.
I don't remember that one. No.
No, they're talking, and so he goes, "Wasn't that Wilkins? No, well, it was Thompson. I don't think it was." And then they're shouting up at the ones that are left. Come on, Tompkins, jump, because they're taking bets. They're encouraging. Come on. By the way, just to let you know, Herodotus Get Fooked is in your chat, and this is a question for Herodotus Get Fooked because I got this message in from Andrew Carrington Hitchcock, right?
Yeah.
He sent me this last week, actually last Tuesday, but now's the time to mention it. He says, "Good morning, Paul. You may want to tell Eric that Herodotus Get Fucked, see how polite I am.
Yes.
Herodotus Get Fooked is a line out of a Derek and Clive sketch, although I don't remember which one. So, Herodotus Get Fooked, your question for 10 points. What sketch was it? Because I don't know either. Do you know what sketch it was that you acquired your sobriquet from? That's what we want to know. You know,
Yes.
where did you get that from? Yeah.
I know the two comedians that did the sketch, but I don't remember the actual sketch itself. So I do know two comedians
It's very obscure.
Yes, and we got That's Life, but not as we know it. Good evening, inmates. We got Angela Dempsey. Hello, everyone. Hello. And then we've got Suko says, on South Prom, there are some awful arty things and a very large glitter ball. Really? I think you can get ointment for that, can't you? I mean,
oh, I love ointment.
Yes.
Ointment's great.
Oh, by the way, did you know that Thamesmead Council are going to ban swearing? So I think
it's about bloody time too.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't bloody go to bloody Thames bloody Mead Council any bloody way, so I'll be bloody all right, won't I?
I think we all should have a swearing competition there once a year. And let's bombard their police station if they got one. All go up there on a certain day and give ourselves in and say, "Well, I stubbed my toe up down the road." I said, "Oh, sod it," you know.
Yeah.
We'll get fined, yeah, because we've got to be honest citizens, you see. There we got here. Hello from a dark and damp Elgin. Is that where the marbles are? That's life, but not as we know. Elgin. Do you know where Elgin is? Elgin? No, don't know. Top of the morning. No, it's not morning. Greetings from Ireland. That's QI. Is that North or South Ireland? Or Ireland's, or is it a district of Fockham in Ireland? So you just don't know, you see. So, and we got Deb. Hello, Deb. Evening, Chris and all. Have a good show. Asmad. Are you really? Ansmad. Are you really? Don't know what that means. Sorry. Oh, hang on. Here he comes. He's come back. Herodotus Get Fucked. Derek and Clive. Ad nauseum. A shocking classic.
Ad nauseum. That's the album. Okay. Better give it the once over. Better not play that near a police station up in Thamesmead. Right?
No.
But not do that. We'll all get locked up. Maybe they will, because obviously Peter Cook's no longer with us, and neither is Dudley Moore. Maybe they'll have to do what they did to Cromwell. Because they swore so much on those albums, they'll need to exhume the corpses and hang them up in public, because, you know, as a symbol of where foul language gets you. So maybe that's coming up in the new language police system.
What you need to do is carry around an air horn, so when you do swear, you just blurt it out so no one can hear you.
And another beep, beep. Yeah, okay, yeah, we could do that.
All going around the town with air horns. That'd be a bloody good idea, wouldn't it? You know, then they'll ban air horns, won't they? But now the lady, here we go. We said IQ is on the border, so a bit of both, eh? So you're half north and half south. That's good, because I think, do you get cheap petrol in the north and it's expensive in the south? Because I know you can go over the border without a passport. I know that. And and me, Herodotus Get Fucked. Really? And Suko says, I'm in Fockham, Paul.
Well, it's near Blackpool, is it? It's near
Yeah.
Blackpool, isn't it? It's a it's a little it's an enclave. It's an enclave within the Greater Blackpool area. Fockenpool,
actually,
yes.
I think has to have a Ponzi title. So, what do you think she could be? She could be Fockham Cold, no Fockham ambassador to something, or minister without portfolio. Maybe, I don't know. We could think up a Ponzi title. So, if you want a Ponzi title, just go for it. And
The Fuckum
Deborah-
Nuncio.
yes,
Oh,
yeah,
very good.
that's
Yeah,
a
the
good one.
Nuncio's quite nice.
Yes. Good evening, Eric, Patrick, and Paul, and all you chatters. Hope you have a good show, and please don't forget to like. Oh, isn't that kind? Thanks, Deb. Share and subscribe if you haven't already. That's very, very kind. And thanks for coming on, Deb. By the way, I still haven't replied to your Facebook thing, and it's because I'm a lazy git. So I'll get in touch after the show. Not tonight, but tomorrow probably. And dad joke of the week. I woke up laughing today. I must have slept funny. Yes. Well, it's a bit like the two cannibals at a clown, isn't it? One said to the other one, "That tastes funny to you." Sorry.
I'm just going outside for a quiet smoke, Eric, and I don't even smoke.
The Minister of Fun. Now that's what I like. What about Minister of Fun? Okay, that's a good one, is it?
Yeah, Minister of Fun's quite good.
Yes, and me, it's called The Horn on the Album. Leviticus Shovit says, and me,
Yeah, it's a bit vulgar, that one. Yeah, that's quite vulgar, that one. Yeah, in fact, there's very few sketches on their entire album output that are not vulgar, obscene, and disgusting. So
did they do a record, the Peter Cook and Dudley Moore?
they did a few.
Yeah, they did a few. My favorites, what was it called? Was something about a bloke. So this bloke came up to me, I think was the name of it. It makes prolific use of the C word.
Yeah, it does.
Did you ever see the film The Wrong Box with them in it? Which is the greatest mistake that's ever been done in cinematography. It's set in the Victorian times, back the 1880s, 1890s, and they come out of this house and there's all television aerials all over the house.
Well, they were very advanced back then,
Yes,
they were very advanced.
Yes.
Yeah.
The purpose is it was by the way, no worries, Eric. Thanks, Deb. Come on if you want. Now we got here. This is Hatchy. We're all doomed. That's Dad's army, isn't it? And just passing through. Remember, they don't like it up them. That was the butcher, wasn't it, Jonesy? They don't like it up.
Yeah, that was they don't like it up them. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The fuzzy wuzzies, cold steel, they don't like it up them. No, they don't. They don't.
That was supposed to be set in Kent, but it was actually filmed in Norfolk. Seriously, they filmed it in Norfolk.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be Kent, but I still think the classic one is don't tell. What is your name? Don't tell him, Pike.
Yeah, this is. There are some classic ones. It's very. I caught some of the radio shows. I think they repeat them, maybe on good old Radio 4 or Radio 3 or something over here. I caught one about a year ago. And it was nearly the same cast, although I think it must have been after James Beck had died. He played the Spiv, didn't he?
He was
he was very good as the Spiv with that fantastic weasel on his upper lip, that Spiv's moustache, and he was very oily, and his lovely loud checked suits and those stripes that he was great. Very, very good. Always smoking out the side of his mouth. Right, yeah, come on. I love all those characters. They're sort of like out of a comic book, aren't they? But
get anything you wanted. Yeah, I know someone can get that. I've got a cousin who was like that. Anything you bought, you're ripped off. I could have got one of those. For half the price. You name it. It was all talk. He could never get any bloody thing, Now, my cousin, if you went up to him, I don't have any dealings with him now, and you said to him, if you had, say, I don't know, you want to sell him, say, a pencil, right? Say you wanted to sell him that, and a going price, you could get them anywhere for £1. You go up to him and say, oh, I've got this. It's it's a bit hot. You know what I mean? £10. Oh yeah, all right, yeah. He was as gullible as you could find. He got done loads of times because people go up to him. All I have to say is, it's a bit hot, It went in the front door during 12 midday, and it went out the back door at 12 midnight. That it wasn't his built, honestly, but someone you can make money out of him. You see, go down to Tesco's and buy something, make out it's a dodgy item, and double the price. I wouldn't do it. But now it's funny though. But do you find that? Hang on, Addy Bittler says, is it? We've got Addy Bittler, Manchester, or should I say, Black Manchester? Yes. I don't think.
No, you can't say that.
We can't
That's
say
completely.
that. No. Oh my God, we've said. Oh.
Did you just say that?
Yes.
Oh dear.
Yes, we're talking about all the coalmen that work there. It used to be the coal trade that they had a lot of coal industry there, didn't they? Ooh, this is. But no, it's funny because when you look going back to these new towns and the sort of hideous architecture, what is it with modern sculpture? Can you see anything? I mean, when I was studying architecture, the lecturer gave up with me and two other blokes. He said, "You don't get it, do you?" I said, "No, I don't get it. It's crap. I just don't get it." I could just about get what they call it, Dada art. Who was that bloke with a long moustache?
Salvador Dali.
Yeah, just about, because he could draw. I mean, he was an artist. I can understand his stuff when he could draw, painted dreams, but the rest of the stuff was crap. I just couldn't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get abstract. I'm afraid it just something in my brain just does not. I look at it.
But I think it's designed to do that, isn't it, Eric?
Yeah.
It's designed for you to come, when someone says it's a piece of art, you actually go with an expectation that you might actually see something beautiful or wonderful, and then you see something ridiculous, but they tell you that it's beautiful and wonderful. And so it creates a kind of dissonance in the head. That's intentional. It's all part of it.
It's like the Emperor's New Clothes, like the Hans Christian Andersen story. And I've always thought, 15 years ago, we started getting roundabouts around here, which was kind of alien thing. We never had roundabouts. Mm-hmm. But I think those are the perfect places for artwork. And I had always said that we have one in our nearby town of St. Croix that they should put a big boot. That way you go around the boot. But, what else would you do?
Beauty. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you, Patrick. Sorry about that. But we got a beauty, absolute beauty. Near where I live, they had the whitewater rafting for the 2012 Olympics and the London Olympics, although it wasn't in London, the whitewater rafting. And there's a roundabout that had grass, trees, bunny rabbits running around, daffodils in the springtime, wildflowers. Very nice it was. And then what did they do? They came along with bulldozers, pulled all the trees up, and then put gravel down on there. And this sort of thing that's supposed to represent the waves of the whitewater rafting. And I call it the vomit roundabout because it looks like vomit. This sort of look, it's horrible. It's vile. Why couldn't they have left the trees and the bunny rabbits there? I mean, it was lovely beforehand, and they've got this sort of. It looks like the Gobi Desert with this sort of piece of aluminium sort of going round, or in America, aluminum, with these sort of like supposed to be waves. Huh? God knows what it was,
Yeah, I think that that type of place is a good place for artwork. You have to contemplate it. You got something to do while you're driving around it. You can
Yeah.
see it, gaze at it from all sides. Perfect
Yeah.
spot.
The trouble is that things like that, what they put up, I mean, someone's just put some posts in this aluminium, whatever it is. You couldn't, I mean, it's very handy, things like that. You can use as a urinal. But the trouble is you'd be in the middle of a roundabout and everybody will see you. So I think they should put them around the side turnings, you know. That would be the best things. But Aunt Sully's come up with a beauty here. And modern art is designed to demoralize and cause personal stress to the consumers. It's also a great way to launder money. Yes, look at Tracy Emin and her mum-made bed and things like that. But Picasso,
What's the name
My
of that
bed's
artist
often
in
like that,
London?
Eric. My bed's often like that. I sometimes
Right.
get confused that my bed is Tracy Emin's bed because it looks very similar a lot of the time. Yeah, it's very unmade.
yes, I know, I know the feeling. Yes, and also look at Picasso. Now Picasso, sorry, I don't get it. It's crap. I really don't get it. And apparently, what he would do, he'd scribble something on a bit of paper and throw it out to the audience and say that's worth so many million francs or whatever it is. You know, so much money. But he was around at the same time as Corbusier, the architect, and I think we've got a few things to say about him. I think you're a fan of Corbusier, aren't you, Paul?
Yeah, I love him. I love his work. I think he's the greatest architect that ever lived. This is called sarcasm. Just in case. Alert! Warning! This is a lie. No, I'm not a fan. The thing about Picasso is there are interesting. He actually really could paint. He really could. Yeah, You should. There's a thing he did. He did a sort of church scene, an altar, painted it when he was like 14. You go and catch that before he got inducted into the. We'll use this guy to, present this nonsense. And maybe it would be worth echoing or repeating what Goebbels did. I think I mentioned this the other day on Thursday because I'm reading the wonderfully hilarious biography of Goebbels. It's not hilarious at all. It's the complete opposite of that. It's quite grim reading, fascinating, but grim all the same. But one of the things he did was they went around and they gathered up as much as they could find from all of the museums, all of the modern art, and put it all in one big place so that it took you several hours to go around it. And it was very effective in getting the point across that this was complete junk. People that wandered around there wanted to leave, and they noticed, it's only when you sort of get a hammer blow of it, they noticed just how debilitating the whole thing was, how revolting it is, and how undermining it all is. And so it's reflected in all of these things. I think it's probably even reflected in fashion. Because I know, chaps, you're probably, incredibly keen followers of fashion as I am. I have to stay up with the latest trends in clothing. It's always been very, very important to me that I have the latest T-shirt and stuff. Of course, it's not important to me at all. I've never even understood it. But if you look at the way people dressed 100 years ago, they dressed proper, didn't they? Well, I'd like to get back to that. Of course, you have to find suppliers, but we probably do need a sort of informal uniform. I know that skinheads, what did skinheads have? They used to wear Ben Sherman shirts, didn't they? At least they were wearing shirts. Ben Sherman shirts.
Brutus.
Yeah.
That was the other one, wasn't it? And the Dr. Martens.
And the Dr. Martens shoes, which I still have a pair of, by the way. I just have the plain black policeman's Doc Martens shoes. And I actually sold the idea to my sons who, when they got a pair, they went, "These are fantastic." I'm going, yeah, they're just brilliant. They're the most fantastic shoes to wear. And they're still going strong, I imagine, Doc Martens. Of course, they will have tarted their range up with all sorts of other stuff. But the idea of being conservative and drab and boring and dull, I find really exciting. I think we should really be doing all that again. Lots of grey flannel trousers and jumpers and things.
Get some Harris tweed,
Yeah, we should.
Out.
Absolutely. Just all look the same. And we need to get hats of some sort. I don't know what. Yeah. I couldn't do a trilby, though. I could never do a trilby. I just look silly in a trilby. They just don't work for me.
That's nice, but not as we know it has come up with a cracker. Parliament vote on Picasso painting. Eyes to the left, two noses to the right.
Yeah, spot on.
Oh, by the way, I've got an apology, mate, to Ted. Ted sent a fantastic gag through for me to say today, and I ran out of time. So I'm sorry, Ted. If I got time, I'll crack it next week. So thanks, Ted, for the gag. Sorry I couldn't read it out today. I had the an old one from I copied an advert, so I had to go into my archive for that one. But now Aunt Sally has said I rather like Monet's work. So do I. I'm a Monet.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
And there's also Manet, isn't there? There's Manet and Monet. And I had a mate who once said, he said, now Manet and Monet, did they have any money? And I quite like that. That's just a little line. That's all it is. But yeah, did Manet and Monet have any money or something like that?
That's right.
But I like those guys too.
They had an exhibition in London and the police had to be called in because of so many people wanted to see his art. That goes to show you how good it is. And I'm a bit of a Monet fanatic. I think he was brilliant, absolute genius. You know, also like sort of, I kind of like the art around that time. You know, you had Art Nouveau, you had Debussy, and all that sort of, you know. But sorry, going back to that, and also Hatchie says, Joan Crawford and the ice cream van sketch, laugh out loud. Derek and Clive live. I don't remember that. Bit before
it's
my
a good
time.
job you don't. It's a good job you don't because this is a family program, Eric, and you must retain some sense of decorum here. Unfortunately, I do remember the whole sketch. It's just running in my head now, so I'm going to have to go away embarrassed and have another cigarette outside. It's that bad.
I'd actually start reading the 1990 edition of the Exchange of Mark. That might help you, you know.
Very exciting.
Hedges get booked says, to be different in different times, D and C, not PC. Yes. Yes, D and C, not PC. Okay. Hadji says, boys from the Blackstaff, not sure where it was filmed. Birmingham, I think. Yeah, it was very depressing, Boys from the Blackstaff, wasn't it, if I remember rightly?
I'm getting depressed thinking about it right now. Oh,
yeah.
Look, see?
Yeah.
My energy's gone right down. Oh, I feel quite glum now.
Who was that group that used to sing in a depressing way? You know, got up this morning. I think they sang the Pukey Blues, didn't they? I felt rather sick, so I puked up. And it's dreadful. You get manic depressive. Was it the Smiths that sung a very depressed sort of group? It's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's it. But going back to, I mean, art, I think you've got a bit of what I call crap art near you, Paul. I really do think that. Isn't that one where shows the inside of a pregnant woman's stomach? What is that? Is that down the road to you?
I don't know. I know that they've done all those sorts of things. Yeah, they sort of turn it into sort of biological nonsense, don't they, and everything. It's it would be relatively. I think it would be relatively easy to bring beautiful art back. There's probably people out there making it right now, a bit like there are people out there making really good, authentic music. I think that's the word actually for me. Is if I might not like it, but I know when I'm in the presence of an honest effort. Do you know what I mean? That's sometimes, you know, I've heard things from certain musicians. I didn't like it, but I respect it because I see what they're trying to do or where they're coming from. It might not be the sort of message or music I want to listen to, but it's a genuine sort of communication. Whereas, you know, what we're faced with in the realm of music is a kind of artificial production factory, just cranking out auto-tuned nonsense that doesn't bite into your emotions. It really doesn't. It just sort of skims over the top of them, and everybody's glazed. It's like a sort of an extremely, you know, unmeaningful waste of your time to listen to this nonsense. Someone was telling me the other day about some sort of boy band that had been manufactured out in Thailand or somewhere like that, worth billions, and you go, yeah, but it's not worth anything. I mean, you might have some. It's just, what's the point of it? It's just ridiculous, you know. It really is. And I think, you know, the old thing with the music stuff was that it cost a lot of money to put a band together. So the ones that really rose to the top were actually the best ones. Whereas now you've got a lot of people, ever since you kind of got electronic, I really am showing my age, aren't I? But I never really liked electronic music. When it came in the 70s and everything, I just hated it. I just went, what's this? I want to see people playing live, messing it up. I'm serious. The idea of seeing musicians struggle with things and cocking it up and recovering mid-song is one of the great joys of live music, because they end up laughing or they get cross. Something goes, it never goes perfect, and you don't want it to go perfect. You know, if you want to do that, listen to the record. But when you go see somebody live, you're there for a sort of an event, aren't you? And I had things like that loads.
That's like the story of Buddy Holly. Buddy Holly was notorious for getting off beat in the middle of a song. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And nowadays it's all click track. You know, since the 70s, they had the little click track where only the musicians hear it. And it just goes, you know, like a metronome type thing. It's like, well, what's the point of having a drummer if they can't keep a beat? Or, you know, you just naturally should be able to keep a beat when you're playing guitar or any instrument for that matter. But
yeah, drummers are pretty important in bands. They are in rock bands. They probably are in any band, but drummers are pretty important. They are
for dance. For dance. Yeah.
I've just seen something in chat. That's live. That was really nice. Cart with a cracker. Just my funny bone. Which artist has a brown finger? Picasso. I'll see that's a cracker, that is. That's an absolute.
I think you better end the show now while we're on top.
Mr. H didn't like Picasso. Well, Mr. H, actually, between you and I've. Oh, by the way, the police will probably be knocking on my door tomorrow. What I'm about to say.
They might be setting up a new modern art division to prosecute people that criticise modern art. I think that we can expect that pretty soon. The modern art police will be along soon. Yeah, they've got to be.
It'll be like swearing.
Mr. H, I've got it on his paintings. Have you seen Mr. H's paintings? They're bloody good.
Yeah.
Have you seen them? He really knew how to paint. And have you seen Churchill's ones? Like they're done by a 5-year-old.
Well, he's probably very drunk at the time. So when he was doing the painting.
Do you know the story of his wall? Do you know he used to do bricklaying as sort of a leisure pursuit? Well,
who, Winston?
Yeah. Well, I've heard from several sources that they had a professional bricklayer that went along there and did this wall. And then he would go, and Churchill will come along with his trowel and his, in his muck, and the photographers would be there and pose there as if. So it was a kind of, as if, he's a marvelous practical man. No, he wasn't. So that was bullshit. And then also his paintings. I've seen his paintings, which are dreadful. But no, Mr. H, you look at his paintings. He had a good eye for perspective. I'll tell you that.
Well, you know what they should have done? Instead of going to war, they should have just got all the leaders together and seen who the best painter was, and then they would decide the war based on that. World War II would have had a different outcome if that were the case.
Yeah.
Sounds like
it would. It probably would. And I saw somebody put a little clip up today of David Irving talking briefly about Churchill. And it was a very interesting clip.
I saw that. Yes,
very interesting clip. Was it the comment or that section where he's talking about after the war had formally been opened and agreed upon? Let's put it that way. There was that thing called the false war, where there was nothing really going on.
Only war.
And Irving was saying that Churchill was seriously considering not having the war. And then he described him going back to number 10 at night, all alone with his whiskey or whatever it was that he'd drink, thinking, we don't really need to have this war. And then, this is Irving, I guess, putting words in Churchill's mouth. Churchill thinking, what am I thinking about? If we don't have a war, I would be Prime Minister. I won't have anything to do. No, we better have a war.
Because he
Seriously,
mucked up every battle he was in.
he mucked up everything.
Mm.
I mean, it's almost impossible to know quite how. I mean, the thing is, he should have just stuck to reciting poetry. He did have a prodigious memory, and he does write well. He knows how to really muster words simply for effect. There's no two ways about it. He's very good at that. I'm working on the basis that he wrote many of his speeches, but maybe that's possibly not true. I know that the history book he wrote was ghostwritten by a lot of military people as well, and then all rounded up, or they made a major contribution to it. But there's a poem called The Lays of Rome by Macaulay, and one of them is called, it's about Lars, it's 55 verses long, this thing. And it's about Lars Porsena of Clusium mustering an army to march on Rome. And it's the bit that's got Horatio at the bridge, defending the bridge with his two companions. I don't know if you know it. If you don't, you should know it, because it's a wonderful poem. It all rhymes. It's about battle and about the defense of Rome. And it's just glorious, actually. It's a fantastically exciting story in poem form. Well, Churchill apparently could recite the whole lot. This is prodigious. I'm serious. When you look at the length of it, you go, really? I mean, I tried to remember about 5 or 6 verses and I thought, well, I don't want to be like Churchill anyway, really. But it's so he was gifted in that way. He did have certain gifts, but he also had such serious character flaws. And it's, anyway, ifs, buts, and maybes. Serious ifs, buts, and maybes with him. But yeah, Gallipoli, he cocked everything up. The invasion of Norway, every time he interfered with things, he cocked it up. It's as simple as that.
Did you know the military had to spend a lot of money to convince him that instead of D-Day, he said, why not attack and invade neutral Portugal and go up through Portugal? And that to show him that, number one, is against international law because Portugal was neutral. And number two, the resources, it would have just been a disaster. I mean, it's ridiculous, completely bonkers. But really, the other thing was Dieppe, Ray. Did you see what was said about Dieppe? They knew it was going to be a disaster.
That was for the Canadians, wasn't it? Was that the Canadians that?
Yeah. Yeah. But the thing is that when I think Churchill had to carry on in the war because the City of London had paid off his debts, which was £19,500 before the war, because he was due to lose Chartwell, which was his home, because of his gambling debts and all kinds of other debts. And the City of London kindly paid it off. Yes, I mean, he who pays the piper calls the tune, don't they? Need I say more?
I think that is the case. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah,
it's very much the case.
That sounds like H.L. Hunt. Here in America, there's H.L. Hunt, the oil man, who's gambling. Basically, landed him with the largest oil field in Texas just before the war started. So, which made him, because of the wartime industry, the richest man in America, at least on paper. So, yeah.
Really? Well, that's life, but not as we know it. As said, did you know that Mr. H used to get injected with Boar's semen from his doctor? True story. That must have put him in a sticky situation, mustn't it? Yes. Well, there we go. And and I don't know whether they say it's true, but you see, the thing is that I don't know if David Irving's gone. I think he's gone through many of the diaries, hasn't he? And I think he's gone through his doctor's diaries. So I don't know. But the idea of all getting around a paint off. That's life, not as we know it. Saying so, that's a good idea. They could all get around.
You didn't say pants off, did you? You said paint off. Is that right?
Paint off. Yes. Well, yeah. But with that light, it would be pants off. And Hachi said, Kiev Stama is rolling out grey uniforms. We'll all be the same. Yeah, a bit like Mao's China, where all that wear denim, didn't they? Yeah, I think that's coming actually. Yes. Now, what's this? The Stranglers Raven album, 1978. This is Herodotus Get Fucked. But hang on, we got here the bowler hat farmer. Just checking, as I've been poorly. Oh, sorry, mate. You've been a bit Tom and Dick. I didn't realise that. But Yes, because that's our agricultural minister, Fockham agricultural minister. He's up at Suffolk and he's at the blunt end. And what a marvellous job do you think this? Well, every government has done of destroying the farming industry, aren't they? They're absolutely genius at it. But now,
I bought some raw milk the other day. Was I droning on about this the other day? I've still got it actually. Bought some raw milk.
yeah.
It's really, really nice. Yeah, it's very expensive. It's
Is it? I
yeah.
bought
Well,
some
it was
today.
one. Well, I paid £1.80 for a litre. Of course, I'm an imperial. I don't know how much a litre is. How many 1 odd pints is a litre? Is it? So it's quite pricey, but it is fantastic. It's really
Mine
good.
was £1.40, and that's from Delicious, Delicious. That's it.
Right.
Near where? And I went there. That's about 10 minutes away from where I live. I went there today, and they got these machines, and you self-service, and also bought a dozen eggs for £4.50. But blimey, those eggs are fantastic. I had them tonight, and they're sort of beautiful white. You know what you get from the supermarkets. You get the sort of, well, I don't know. They just don't look right. Right. This was how an egg should be. Beautiful yolk, beautiful yellow, and really the bee's knees. So it's worth the price, I think. But they also sell ice cream at this place as well, all done by a machine. It's open 24/7, and you can sort of hear the cows there and smell them. And
Really.
yeah, it's great.
Well, that's good. I do get my eggs from a farm, and they're the same. Absolutely brilliant yellow, wonderful thing. I love scrambled eggs. So, yeah, all we really want to talk about is eggs, good milk, and consequently, I'm assuming possibly good cheese from all of that,
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
vital. I don't need much else. Maybe without cows, we'd be lost, wouldn't we? I think I would be. The cheeseburger couldn't exist at all without them. They provide the cheese and they provide the burger.
That's right.
So,
But also, two things I try and avoid now, which I've learned a fair amount about, I've been doing some research, is the thing to avoid is sugar, which is a poison, and wheat. And I like wheat-based products. I like pancakes and things like that. And but you can make them out of other things. But wheat and also these. Hang on. We got here. The bowl out farmer says, don't forget the fresh fruit and vegetables. Yes. And have you noticed that when you buy supermarket celery, it tastes like water on a stick or string on a stick? That's what I call it. It's like, yes.
Yeah, it's funny. I read once that celery is the only food that you can eat that whilst you're eating it, you're getting slimmer because you expend more energy from the chewing motion than you actually get in from the celery itself.
Well,
yes.
What I do, Miles, I don't know if he's on tonight. He might be listening in the chat, something like that. Koei, that's Dr. Fleetwood, who I go to. He's he's a herbalist. He knows, diets and what's the other thing? Nutritionist and acupuncturist. And what I do now, when I get up in the morning, instead of having breakfast, I have a main meal first thing in the morning. That's what you're supposed to do. And then I don't eat anything. And having plenty, you have plenty, you have your protein at that time in the morning. You have plenty of protein. And then I don't eat anything. I don't feel hungry for the rest of the day. And then I have something about 4 or 5 o'clock, light snacks. I eat like a pauper then, and that's it. And the longer you go, so I don't really eat for 14 hours overnight.
Right.
Longer you go, the more your body is getting rid of all the toxins and all the nasty stuff. But what suits one person doesn't suit another. It suits me. I have a good old. It's a bit weird eating a big main meal first thing in the morning, but that's what our ancestors used to do. That they used to eat all the meat and everything first thing in the morning. But Dan MC has said, you will eat the bugs and enjoy the shit break dancing. Oh, hang on. hang on, he's back again. That's life, and not as we know it. What do you? You've been opening the Christmas crackers again early, haven't you? What do you call a retired vegetable? It has been. Sorry.
These are like dad jokes. Are these Christmas cracker jokes? They're fantastic. Those I like that. That's a Christmas cracker joke.
Yeah, this is what Miles said: breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. That's it. So apparently that's the ideal diet. It took a bit of getting used to because I used to get up in the morning and have a porridge, you know, but now it's a bit weird having a main meal first thing in the morning. But that's what a full English breakfast is, and they reckon a full English breakfast is one of the most healthiest things you can have. Seriously.
Yeah. Well, I don't eat bacon no more, but as I've droned on before, I eat Italian chicken sausages, which are fantastic. So maybe I need to get around to. I have heard that. I just can't get around to doing it. When I get up, all I want is a cup of tea in the morning. Actually, it's more than one. It's about 2 or 3 really before 11 o'clock, and then I feel normal. But if I don't get tea, I'm kind of all at sea. Oh, that rhymed. I'm a poet.
I'm saying that tomorrow morning I'm going to have some nice frothy coffee made with this Moo-Cow milk, which is the uncontaminated raw milk. So there we go. Aunt Sally says, here she is. She says, I used to only have one meal a day, and usually in the evening. Yes, I used to eat a meal in the evening. I've changed my diet similar to Chris, and once I got through the sugar addiction, I don't get hungry after breakfast either. Yeah, I've got over the sugar addiction because I was addicted to chocolate. So, you know, that sends everything everywhere.
But I mean, look, this is just, I couldn't live without chocolate. I mean, I could. I might even live longer, but I'd rather not. I think I've made my decision. I've made my choice. If you said no chocolate and you'll live an extra 5 years, or chocolate and you won't, it's chocolate for me every day.
Yeah, but real chocolate's okay. Not natural chocolate's fine.
I'll eat anything.
Yeah,
I'll eat anything. Anything that's got chocolate in it. Count me in. Yeah, it's fantastic. I absolutely love it.
Wow. I actually found, though, that Cadbury's has gone downhill.
Too much sugar now. It is. It's too sweet now. You can tell. Yeah,
Galaxy and all that. But no, I think that I tell you what I did have once. And that was chocolate with salt in it. Sea salt chocolate. Now that is really unbelievably delicious. Imagine it, sea salt chocolate.
Yeah, I've seen that. I think I might have had it a bit. Yeah, I don't know whether I really warmed to it. And you can get chili chocolate as well, can't you? Chocolate with chili in it and stuff like this. It's all getting a bit too wacky for my conservative northern tastes, really. But
Bowler Hat Farmer says, "I'm alive." Are you really? Oh, hang on, I better check. Yeah. But I hope you're not Tom and Dick now. I hope you're a lot better, mate, because I don't like to hear you're ill. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And you'll have to come back on a show soon. You could eat the most delicious chocolate right in front of me, and I feel no jealousy, says Aunt Sally. You might as well be eating your shoe. Sugar means nothing to me now. I miss Marmite more, to be honest. Marmite. Yes, you are. Now, this is a question for Patrick. Patrick, can you get Marmite in America? Is he there? No. Do you know whether you can get Marmite in America, Paul? I bet it's expensive.
You probably can. I do remember the Marmite adverts, which are probably one of the greatest advertising campaigns ever. Do you remember those? The TV adverts for Marmite?
Yeah. I think we could probably get them at Amazon. Sorry, really? I'm actually on the road riding my scooter really? while I'm talking to y'all. But
wow, mobile show.
Wow, yeah, what sort of scooter is it? Is it one of these electric jobbies, or is it one of these?
No. It's a Honda 150 PCX 150. Oh, it's a nice little scooter. Yeah. Excellent. 90 miles per gallon. Yeah, quite good mileage.
Really? Because what I like about where you are, they're not sort of. Are they becoming eco dictators like they are in this country? You know.
I'm sure they are at like the manufacturer level. They're doing all sorts of odd shenanigans, but for the most part, we're still petrol based here. And I don't think it's going to change anytime soon because you have too long a distance. And where I'm at in Wisconsin, it gets down to 30 below in the wintertime, which isn't good for batteries. Batteries don't like the cold, especially when you're heating your vehicle at the same time.
Well, that's right. But there's a lot of Teslas in this country, hell of a lot. And I was almost run over by one. I was walking across a car park. I think, Now, I had this strange sense there was something next to me. I looked around, there's a car bumper there, and it was a Tesla. What the bloody hell? Because you can't hear the electric cars. At least with petrol cars you can, but I don't understand it because now diesel engines are so clean and so are petrol engines. Very, very clean. The technology is fantastic. Yes, the old diesels were horrible. Nobody wants pollution, but they're muddling pollution up with this new eco-communist agenda. The two are two completely different subjects, I believe. Pollution is completely different to eco-politics. I mean, what's your feelings on that?
Well, I think the whole thing is commie, basically, to use that word. I mentioned, did I mention it last week? I don't know. There's a website, kinetic7.com. It's worth checking out. Kinetic7, the number 7.com. Yeah. They're making a cooker. They're based in the United Arab Emirates. There's a 2 or 3 minute video of them with this cooker, which is presented as a 2-ring sort of supplementary cooker. The sort of thing about the same size as a camping stove, a 2-ring camping set, if you're a bit more sophisticated than just having a Bunsen burner or whatever you used to have, a Primus stove or those things. And the fuel for it is water, and it's a fantastic bit of tech. Really? I've no idea. Ultimately, there's video of it working. So you put the water in this tank at the top, and you get high. It uses electrolysis. And probably of a particularly efficient sort, because it produces hydrogen as a gas within about 3 to 5 seconds of you switching it on, right? So it's like a slow lag gas cooker. It's just about 3 to 5 seconds. When the hydrogen is ignited, it burns at 1600 degrees, right? So that's very, very, very hot, right? And so what they've done is, I think on the rings, they've got the outlet very tiny, a very small aperture to let the gas out, so that you don't melt your cooking utensils. You probably just, So that's what it's marketed as. It's fantastic, and it means that anybody in the world, if they need to boil water, particularly as there's a lot of ropey water around in the world, if you need to boil it, that's what you want, because you can use water as the fuel, then you can boil the crappy water, get all the crap out of it, and drink it later on when it's cooled down or whatever. But of course, it doesn't take much of a leap to understand that there you've got effectively an unlimited supply of fuel, because there's an awful lot of water around, and whatever you emit and burn off, it just reforms as clouds anyway, and you get more water coming back down. So that's the entire world's energy problem solved right there in that little cooker. It's completely solved. If you took an engineering development organizations and said, look, take this fuel production system and apply it to internal combustion engines, to trains, to jet engines. I mean, I would imagine jet engines might quite like to run on that, basically like rockets going off. What's the problem? Well, the problem is it's difficult for them to actually put a meter on you every time it rains in England, which is quite a bit, everybody, then you've just got some more fuel, haven't you, for nothing? Yeah. But I think it's to do with a kind of hangover from how we've developed civilization. We've developed it on the basis of economic control structures, and the people that are in charge of that are habituated to being in charge of it. There's no point thinking you could persuade them using logic that there's a much better way of dealing with things now. That's not going to be possible. Their entire being is warped, as it were, into being in control. And, I'm not even angry about it. I'm just pointing it out I'm slightly angry about it, but it's like an engineering problem. You go, well, you've got these dysfunctional human beings who are almost prehistoric in their view of what's happening, because I think the technology, correctly applied, invalidates masses of commercial exchanges. You wouldn't need them, would you? Why would you need them?
Precisely.
You wouldn't need vast markets to service things if we've got unlimited supplies of energy. It would, in simple terms, you could build a greenhouse, a large one, at the end of your garden, if you've got a garden, and if not, you could get together, and then you could power that thing for nothing, practically, or very, very low cost, to remain at a constant temperature or whatever you wanted throughout the year, growing food round the clock, non-stop. You'd have all your transportation costs met. All the electrical generators that supply electricity throughout the UK or anywhere could be powered by this tech. That's it. It's done. So can we have it, please? No, they say. Why? Because we'd be out of a job. Because they'd be out of a job.
Do you remember that bloke in France? Always in the 1980s. He actually heated his house from rotting leaves. He lived on the side of a woods, and he used to collect all the leaves, put it in a big container, and it cost him nothing to heat his house in the winter. And there was also another chap who drove across America in a car powered by water. Quite famous he was. It's on YouTube, I think, still. And he was poisoned. And do you remember that? What was his name?
Stan Mayer.
Stan Mayer, that's it. Yeah, he was poisoned because he actually staggered out the restaurant, didn't he? He said, they poisoned me, and dropped dead.
Years ago, when I was living the exotic life, flying around Europe, as I did, with an entourage of flunkies. I went to Nice. Went to the Cannes Film Festival. No, I flew down to Nice with a pal of mine to see as one does. Let's go to Nice, Charles, and we did. Off we went, and we went to see a chap called Monsieur, because they're all called Monsieur over in France for some reason. Guy Negre, that was his name. He's probably passed on now because he was a seasoned individual when I saw him, probably 93, 94. We went to see him. Anyway, Monsieur Guy Negre used to work for the Renault Formula One engine factory.
That's what I know what you're going to say. Yeah, carry on. Sorry, this is interesting.
All right. So he worked there, and he was involved. The aspect of engine design that he focused on, or that his department worked on technically, was valve timing. So this is pretty important in a Formula One engine, particularly back then, as they were revving to like 17,000 RPM, and on a V10, that's an awful lot of valves flying around. Yeah, it's just an awful lot of action on that stuff. Yeah. What they designed there, they drove, all the valve timing was driven by compressed air. He designed compressed. I'm not saying he designed it necessarily, but he was responsible for that. And so to get these high speeds of valves opening and closing on these, engines going absolutely, to their absolute limit. And it also kept the engine as cool as they could, because these things go incredibly hot. The valve timing was driven by forced injection of compressed air. It was the only thing that they could use that was fast enough to make them move, right? Anyway, he took an interest in compressed air, and he discovered the drawings of a Polish engineer from about 1895. It certainly was the previous century, who had designed an engine that ran on compressed air. Now, it wasn't particularly efficient at the time, but he'd taken that and applied it. And when we went to see him, he had a little factory making what they would call the air car. I'm sure if you do a search, you'll find it, okay? And the thing was fantastic. It was fantastic.
Yeah. I was on their mailing list. I was
all right.
And it was like a sort of a tortoise, wasn't it? It was like a German helmet on wheels. Yeah. That's what it looked like.
That's right. It was designed to be as light as possible.
That's it.
And it was, the chassis was glued together, so they used glue. That's right. These extraordinary glues that you and I don't know nothing. Make super glue looks. It was that sort of amazing glue. Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, sticky back plastic. It was held together with that, and they were working on the main area. The main technical challenge they had at the time was the fuel tank, which was basically like a scuba diver's tank. You know those single cell tanks that scuba divers have? Well, it was one of those, but it'd be about 6 feet long, this thing. And it was made out of carbon fiber because the air that was in it was under enormous pressure. This was a scary bit, right? Because you kind of figure if it got ruptured in an accident, the whole thing would just would explode.
Oh, no, he overcome that, didn't he? Because he overcome that because he had what they put in aeroplanes, and you just go, psss, and that's it.
Yeah, they overcame also. They showed us some of the tests because we went around the factory with them while they were making them there.
Wow.
And I've got some video footage somewhere on an old video camera of my mate. We went for a little spin in it. It sounded like a 2CV, you know, those those Citroen things, that pop, 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 pop. So it had that sort of rough kind of sound, which was kind of, nice in a way. It's kind of reassuring. And my friend knelt down and put his mouth over the exhaust pipe to breathe the exhaust in, because the air coming out of the back end was cleaner than the air you were breathing because it'd been through all these filter systems inside the car. It's fascinating bit of kit. It really was. And they were waiting like anything else. It might still be there. They might have used it for other things. The engine, of course, ran cool, so they didn't need too many lubricants for it. And we found out that what they'd also done is that this sounds absolutely ridiculous, but they had improved the power and the mileage. They really got the mileage up to like 600 or 700 miles on a full tank of air. And to compress the tank overnight, it had an electric pump on board. So you just plug it in when you got home. The thing would recompress the tank overnight. It cost something like 50p to recompress the tank, and then you've got 600 miles of driving for about 50 pence, right? Which is quite attractive, isn't it? And what they'd done is the fuel pipe, where the air came out to go into the cylinder head, they improved it by doing, I don't know what the final thing looked like, but they did explain it to us. They'd put a casing over the pipe, which literally had a naked flame in it. The naked flame was fueled by petrol, but a very, very small amount of it. And what happened was that as the air went through the pipe, this hot part of the pipe caused the air to expand even more rapidly, right? And that way they didn't need to use as much, and that's how they increased the power and everything. It's wonderful. It's a great idea. It'd been great for sort of like village mail delivery systems and shopping and all that kind of stuff. It's not designed as a high-speed Autobahn vehicle. It's not meant to be that. But for bakers and people delivering things locally, it would have been absolutely fantastic. Anyway, they may still be there. I don't know. His son was in charge of development at the time. I think he would have probably left us. It's fantastic.
I know he died, I think, about 10 years ago, and his son is carrying on. I was really fascinated with it because I could see the future in that. But I realised that wouldn't be allowed because it was so cheap to run. And he's also looking at not having huge factories with production lines. You make them in little villages and locally. So you would actually get all the parts over, and you'd have a team of, say, so many people in a factory on the outskirts of town constructing these things very cheaply. So you don't have so it's a sort of mass production. The parts are mass produced, but the parts are sent over and they're actually put together in different countries. And it was very cleverly worked out.
It was a really simple car. It was glued together. They had a little sort of production thing. They kind of worked a bit like Lotus cars. In fact, I think they went to Lotus for the glue. Because Lotus glue the whole idea is to get the weight out of the car. So he was looking to build something that was as light and as strong as possible. The manufacturing costs were very low because it's not a complex engine. It didn't require a lot of stuff. And it just went, and you just thought, there's something cute about it. I think that's the right word. There's something engaging about it. It did feel like a cottage industry type thing, and that's what made it very appealing. But again, it's nothing to do with, we've solved all the tech problems. They've all been solved donkey's years ago. The one problem we've yet to solve is the ruling class problem. That's the problem we've got to get rid of. We've got to solve.
And
whereas they're interchangeable. I view them as the same group. I was just using it as shorthand for that. But that whole thing is it. So and it's like I was mentioning, maybe, yes, I don't know, oil tokens. I think I was on with Ria yesterday just talking about this thing. We can't get the problem solved because the world's finance system is basically oil. When you spend £1, you're spending an oil token. That's really what you're spending because it's the biggest traded commodity. So they hold it together by keeping people reliant on oil so that there's always a demand and a market for it so that there's a value in your currency. All of it's it's really cart before the horse. It really is. It's absolutely mad now. The whole thing is way past its sell-by date, and that's why it's lurching around. It's like a dinosaur that should have been done away with a long time back.
Well, also, I mean, America is beholden to Saudi Arabia because it is the petrodollar, because America went bankrupt in 1971 under Nixon, and so really it used to be to gold. I mean, it was. We dropped the gold standard in 1933 because this country went bankrupt in 1933. America went bankrupt in 1971. But they'll stop using petrol when Saudi Arabia says so, not by anybody else, because the amount of oil they've got is unbelievable. And this idea that oil is what they call fossil fuel is nonsense, because that was invented by Rockefellers, that was it. They made it because if you make something, shall we say, that's going to run out, you can put the price up. Because
it's perception control. It's always about creating a perception about things, so that once a market is convinced, it's a long time to shake that notion out of people's heads. That goes for all of us. You know, this is the thing. So it's almost like sticky brain syndrome. We can't get rid of old ideas that we don't recognize when they're way past their sell-by date a lot of the time. And so what they talk about as progress is about fixing a machine that's crap. They go, we're going to improve this crap machine and make it slightly better. We don't even want it. It's rubbish. But what will we do, they say? Yeah. What will we do? Yeah, well, why don't you just go home and do something useful, like, clean your toilet out or something? Because that's really what they need to be doing.
Well, you're
right. But it's true. I know, I hate being right. We want to see it happen, don't we? And that's the big challenge. How do you get it to happen? The
company was, if you want to look it up on Google, I shouldn't say Google it, use Yandex. That's a better search engine.
Yandex it.
Yandex it, it's 3-letter MDC or something like that, wasn't it? It's a 3-letter company.
MDI, I think it was.
MDI,
but I've just typed in Guy Negre, as in Guy Fawkes. Negre is Negre, and just type Guy Negre air car into Google or Yandex. You just get bucket loads of videos and all sorts of things and what's going on with it, and it's just it's one of many. There are many other solutions to this. I think the water one's fantastic because it should be possible to, certainly with diesel cars, to just turn them over to. I know that people have run their diesel cars on water, and why not?
Old diesel engines will run on anything basically, and there was a system, but it was really complicated, where you could run a diesel engine on, I think it was just ordinary cooking oil or chip fat from the local chippy, as long as it's filtered. And what you did, you started off on diesel, then you switched it over to this crappy fuel, and you had to remember to switch it back again before you stopped. So when you come into your, so it's all right for long journeys, but if you forgot, you might have trouble starting your engine because you need diesel to start the engine. But once the engine's running, then you can use anything basically to keep the engine running. But now with all the electronics, that you can't do it so easily. But I know somebody, I won't mention their name, who does actually run their diesel, or used to, on corn oil. You can go in and buy rapeseed oil and shove that down in the engine. And if you got
I know
Yeah,
you're right about that. Wasn't there a thing, I don't know, 8 or 10 years back where the price of diesel got very, very high, and a lot of people were basically hanging around the back of Chinese takeaways to pick up all the oil that they threw out, because you just take that oil, run it through a filter, I suppose, to get, the sweet and sour pork batter out of it or whatever it is. You got to get that out. You don't want that gummy up your works. You just run your diesel car on it. It's got to be the old diesel engines though, not these modern high rail things, whatever they are. You don't want them. They're too complicated. You want an old Volvo from pre-1980 that chugs around like a tank and is going to last forever. And you can just run it on stuff.
Well, that's it. And this person that actually ran the diesel on it, they said when it stopped at the traffic lights, people could smell like a fish shop. You could smell like a fish and chippy. It smelled like a chippy, you know.
Very nice. Drive it around and attract customers down the chip shop.
That's right. Well, going back into chat, we got here. Aunt Sally says, weren't the Marmite adverts a black deep soul singer, like Barry White? They were brilliant. Oh, I can't get over that with Dennis Wise, that deep voice he had with Barry White. Do you know that on your show?
I know. I mean, Dennis is just, he's revealed a lot about what's really going on with Dennis. We found out a great deal, So, yeah, Barry White, eh? Yeah.
Yeah. But
Barry White.
We won't say what Dennis is famous for because we're a bit knocked off of YouTube. But he's not a footballer. He's not the footballer. It's another Dennis Wise. But Hereditous Get Fucked is get your motor running. Yeah. And Mark Anthony says, we have these ride-on scooters that you can rent in my area. They are a pain in the arse and more often than not used by morons with no common sense. Yeah, isn't that funny? They're dragging their heels on electric scooters. Weird, that, isn't it? I wonder why. It's very odd,
Yeah, and I see this one as well, Eric, from DJ Flipped. Electric cars could go over 100 miles on a charge over 100 years ago, and the battery was only the size of a standard car battery. I mean, there's just tons of stuff. I mean, the thing about the modern electric cars is, and I just saw what was that thing the other week? Somewhere in the West Country, they're going to build this enormous car battery factory. I've forgotten who. Is it Tata Motors, the people that own Jag or something like that, right?
Yeah, they're Indian, aren't they, Tata Motors?
Well, whatever they are. Anyway, the thing is, this is just part and parcel of whatever story they want to tell. Anybody that's looked into that cobalt mining stuff in Africa, this thing needs shutting down. It's sick. I mean, they've got these little kids going into cobalt mines. It's disgusting. It's wretched work to produce electric. I mean, they're not electric cars. They're battery cars. They're not electric cars at all. Without these batteries, and these batteries are still crap. I don't care what they say. They weigh a ton. They're useless. I mean, I'm not impressed at all. The more you look, at first you think, oh yeah, great electric cars. Well, they sound crap. You can't even hear them. And I don't want bloody screens in electric stuff. And apart from which, what about all of they're always warning us rightfully about Wi-Fi and 5G. What about the kind of radio frequencies that are going on in those cars? And the other terrifying thing about them is, if they get a fire in those things, fire brigades can't put them out. You can't put them out with water. You need some chemical thing, don't you? So all the fire engines have got run around with some kind of chemical situation to do with it. It's just useless. It's just useless. It's because it's what they want.
Bloke opposite me's got one, and I think it's a Volkswagen, and he parks it opposite his house, but it's a bit too close to my house, and I'm not happy about it because if that went up, But Patrick's back again. Hello, Patrick. Are you still on your Honda?
Nope, I switched to my Tahoe, my Chevy Tahoe, V8 4x4.
Very nice. You better not mention that in this country. You might be banned from the air, you see, because we're all eco crap and all that sort of stuff. Very nice cars. But
I'm just heading to the local co-op to pick up some.
Hang on, I don't quite catch that.
He's driving so quickly, you're breaking up. That's what's happening. Stop breaking the speed limit.
Sorry about that.
You're going to the local co-op to pick up some. Yes, we had that last night.
Okay. If you can hear me, I'm going to pick up some
I don't think you. Yes. Yes. Did you get that, Paul? Because I think you
no.
Pick up.
That's pretty difficult stuff. That stuff's quite difficult to pick up, isn't it? Because it's all in bits. That stuff that he just described. So tricky.
Yes. I had one once, and the wheel fell off, and it never worked after that. Now, Hereditous Get Fucked says the 300 TDI Defender, no sensors on it. So you could run that on chippy oil, I suppose. So 300 TDI Defender. Is that the Land Rover Defender, I assume? I know that old Land Rovers are run on anything, but that's interesting. Yes, and
I do. I really do think it's a conversation worth championing. Because it's the whole thing. How things come into the world, it seems to me, is through talking. I know it seems a little bit. In other words, we talk. I've had people will say to you, "Well, you've probably heard this. Well, that's all made up." Yeah, it's a common thing. You've just made all that up. To which my response, yeah, and your point is what exactly? Everything that we live around is all made up. Everything. Yeah. The reason why these buildings are so bad is that somebody made up a story that this is what we needed for efficiency. So people have done it because they've believed and bought into that story. It's complete junk. It's a useless story. Oh. It doesn't make anybody happy. It's one of the crappiest stories of them all. And it's the same thing like there's a shortage of this, or we've got to fix the economy and we're all bracing ourselves for, Keir Starlin or whatever. It's going to be a very tough budget. It doesn't have to be a tough budget. He's just decided that's the story he's been told to tell because they're going to rearrange the furniture, usually to their benefit and certainly not to ours. And he'll just come up with more completely ineffectual nonsense, and his feet won't be held to the fire because none of the journalistic class know how to do it because they don't even know what they're talking about. They're that stupid. They're so educated down a really narrow path, and you have to argue with them in their field where they're going to win. And yet the whole sort of field that they're talking in is it's irrelevant. It's not even. It's just completely irrelevant what they're talking about. Oh, we're going to boost. If you do this and we reduce the hours, we do. What are you talking? They're just shuffling the furniture around. It's completely mad. Yeah. But I don't know how you get to introduce them the idea that the context that they've got is completely out of date. It's totally out of date. We don't even need it. It's just bizarre to me.
I agree. I agree with you. I mean, I went going back to this farm. I went to this farm today, and it's really been thought out well. The whole organisation of it. It's if a government.
It does sound good.
That, I mean, even the car park. The spaces where you park. There's like half logs that go along that divide the spaces off. Beautifully designed. And somebody's really given it a lot of thought. When you go in there, the machines are there. When you get the milk, you close a door on this little thing and it steam cleans the inside of the machine where you get your milk from. It's absolutely incredible.
Fantastic.
And as you're getting out your car, opposite is all the cows mooing and things like that, where it's come from probably a little while earlier. And there's chickens around where I love it. I think it's now. You think about it. If you had more of that, the supermarkets, I just want to see them going downhill and going because I want to try and avoid supermarkets because.
I know what you mean, but imagine the form of things. I still think is not really the issue. I think the problem is that everybody is driven by the perceived economic imperative. If you look, say. Just look at this engine or this cooker that's running on water and all the engine possibilities. Yeah. Apply that into the field of farming right now. Just imagine that it was running right now. What would happen to the cost of food in real terms? It would just drop massively. Fuel that they spend on all this stuff that they have to go, with their tractors across the land X number of times a year, all of these things they have to do, the pumps that they have to drive, all the electricity bills that they have to pay. These could be virtually annihilated if we didn't have a government saying you've got to be taxed to perform in our economy. The game that they've designed is just it's crap, and they need to be told it's crap. And you don't even need to be intelligent about it. You don't have to give them, well, explain to me why it's crap. No, it's just crap, mate. It's obviously self-evidently crap. Right? We've got all this other tech. Apparently, you can have this supercomputer in your hand called a mobile phone, but people have still got to go around getting taxed over this other stuff. There's these glaring inconsistencies, and because they're never raised on the mainstream media. I mean, imagine if we could get hold of the BBC and we made October Energy Technology Discussion Month, so that every night on the BBC, every bloody night for 2 hours, you had stuff like this that we're talking about and people coming on and going, is that possible? Yeah, it's possible we could do that. At the end of the month, you go, right, here's how we can sort out the entire nation, right? We can put us on a water fuel basis over the next 5 to 10 years, right? It's going to hammer the cost of everything. We can, but nobody even you never hear it. It's because we're never even hearing it. It's not that the intelligence and the knowledge doesn't exist. It's simply not transmitted on a big enough basis to cause the crowd, as it were, to get it. And that's really the major hurdle that we've got. It's not lack of knowledge or good intentions. We've got so many good people in this nation and elsewhere that if you actually unleash them and said, look, here's some resources, they go, can I play and do stuff? Yeah, go. Watch what would happen. It'd be amazing. It'd be absolutely amazing. Things would just lift off.
Creativity is stifled. It really is. The only time we was let off the leash a little bit was the 60s. And you look at the stage sets, the music, how creative it all was, because people weren't, the rich were attached to the hilt, but it was just a little time when you just give a little bit of freedom. But Aunt Sally said something here. She said, when money is backed by the petrodollar, then there ain't no way anyone is getting to use a water-fueled energy device.
Correctamundo. Absolutely. That's absolutely right, Aunt Sally. That's the whole thing. I've mentioned it before. There's a little story. I've said it before. It's worth repeating again. There was the discovery of this, was it Pastor Williams or something? I think he's passed away recently. If Patrick's still on, he might even know, although he's speeding somewhere and breaking the law. But in Alaska, they discovered this colossal oil and gas field in the early 1970s, about 73, 74. And this pastor, whose name might pop into my head, but I think his surname was Williams. He'd been sent up there in the late 60s, early 70s. He'd been up there 2 or 3 years because the guys that worked on the pipeline, they had a very high suicide rate. It was really high. It was miserable work. They were away from their families. It's dark all the time, and they're drinking a lot, and they lost the will to enjoy life. I mean, you can sort of see it. Yeah. So they had all these psychiatrists there, failing spectacularly as psychiatrists will, because they're a complete waste of time. So they sent him up there, and he reintroduced them to God. He didn't make them go to church or anything. He just actually gave them a considerate ear. And the suicide rate dropped alarmingly. So he became extremely popular within the company because they didn't want to keep paying to try and find new people who were dead all the time, He went into the office one day and there was champagne popping and everybody's just a big party going on. He'd been away for the weekend. He came back and he said, what's gone on? He said, well, we've just had all this data, all these things that we've been, radar or whatever they're using to check all these fields. And he said, it's all come back and plotted out. He said, we've just been calculating. We've got enough oil and gas here to keep America energy independent for the next 400 years. That's how much stuff they found, right? That's calculating the growth of the American 400 years of completely free energy. And so they think we've cracked it, right? About 10 days later, a big fleet of helicopters flies in. There's a big heavy meeting or something. People turn up and blah, 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 blah. And he goes in the following weekend and it's like a morgue. And the reason it was like a morgue, he found out from someone later on that they had been instructed in the clearest and firmest terms that they were not ever going to get that oil and gas out of the ground. And it's a very complicated reason why. But one of the aspects of it is if you discover all this stuff in your own backyard, you don't really need to borrow very much money to get it out, do you?
Correct.
It's right there where you are. In other words, there's not much of a lending book for the banks. But so that's definitely a key. You can't have your own stuff because there's no reason for you to come to the bank to get it because you've already got it. So we can't have that happening. This is how sort of nuts this is. Actually, it's not nuts. It's just the way that they play it. But the other thing is to do with Saudi Arabia and all this, that, and the other, because they have built the whole political command structure around this perceived lack or the restriction of the amount of oil that there is. It's actually so you suddenly go, oh, there's tons of it. We've got loads of it now. We don't need your oil anymore. Then all these international markets suddenly suffer because they're all basically impinged on the idea of, well, we've got all these futures contracts and this, that, and the other. So the thing is, we're surrounded by wealth, but you can't have it because the wealth creation system called money stops you having it. That's how crap it all is. That's how crap it's got. Yeah. So, and that won't be the only example of something insane like that happening.
Also, I don't mean to cut across you there, Paul, but
no, I do.
When the miners strike was on, afterwards there was scientists saying we've got over 400 years worth of coal underneath the United Kingdom. We could be energy independent totally. We've got 400 coal. It's not running out at all. It's got loads of it. So, and I mean, the oil-fired power stations, coal-powered fire stations had scrubbers. No, not those type of scrubbers, but, sort of electronic stuff and all that. We were most advanced in it, where there's no pollution, hardly any pollution coming out. It was very clean. So why not carry on using it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it's unbelievable the way it's systematically destroyed. I mean, then they started importing coal that we could actually dig out of our own. It's bonkers. It really is. And they reckon the North Sea oil is even more, because there's a load of oil being found off the coast of Ireland, which the Irish.
And you've got this shale gas thing up in wherever it is, a massive field of this stuff. I'm not necessarily into digging in the ground all the time, right? It slightly concerns me, but I'm saying that as a layman who's completely ignorant, really, it might be absolutely fine. There's so many other things going on. But the coal field, the one in Wales alone has got 400 years worth. There's another one up in Yorkshire called the Selby coal field, which goes right out into the North Sea. Right out into the English Channel, that up off the coast of Yorkshire. That's got like 250 years worth. And you're right about that. I mean, who's to say that the technology of those stations would not be improved using artificial intelligence and high-tech engineering? Of course it would. You just unleash people on it. We can solve anything, except they won't let us. That's the difference.
Mining.
It's not a technical challenge. It's a human being problem that we've got.
That's right. Well, the early 80s, this country was the most advanced in coal mining. And they very, very rarely had accidents. They were so strict with it. And we got to a point where they was using a lot of robotic machines. They were using conveyor belts. So the coal was just sort of coming up. And, it wasn't blokes sort of stripped to the waist with pickaxes so much. It was very, very technical, highly technical. So I think that it was destroyed deliberately, because that technology is gone now. The people are either dead or they're long retired, so you won't get that back. So we'd have to import technology from abroad, and it's so sad that we lost that. Why? It's just bonkers, completely bonkers.
Well, it is from our perspective, but from theirs, from the actual context that they're in control of, keeping everything under their control, that's what it's like.
That's right.
It's just... It's about them keeping everything under their control. And if you get energy independent and food independent, which you would get, if you get energy independent, next step is food independence, because you can work the land using things at a very little cost. How can they threaten you? We're going to cut your food off. No, you're not. We're going to cut your power off. You're not going to do that either. Oh, right. So if it gets entrenched in a big way, it makes it much more difficult for them. It's not even a matter of making it more difficult for them. Is it a case that they will ever see this? I don't think they will. I just don't. I don't think they ever want to see it. They're not even thinking about it in those terms, So,
well, the thing is, I know the civil service thinks in a way that's very different, because the country isn't run, believe it or not. People think, government run the country. No, they don't. It's the usury scammers that dictate to the country. They say jump, and the government says how high. The civil service run the country, and governments are the pantomime to take your mind off of the two first realities. And the government is there to actually screw as much money out of you as humanly possible, so that they can pay off the usury scam. That's basically it. And hello, we've got now in chat, we've got here DJ Flip says, yes, Stan Mayer, no one would dare touch his patent now. So that's very, very true. That's it, But now we got the other thing I was going to say is that the way the civil service think, I mean, I worked alongside the civil service, never worked for the civil service. And I told you that, I think was it last week, when a bomb went off in a building near a building where I worked, and our building that we worked in had plate glass window all the way around. So if a bomb went off near the building, we'd be shouting glass. So the simple thing is to put net curtaining up. So I said, well, why don't we put net curtaining up? And there's some people around the corner that would do it for £5,000, or I can't remember the exact price. And they said, oh, no. They've got to be a, what they call it. They've got to be on the approved list. And we've got to have a risk assessment. People come in first. The risk assessment people charge £30,000. And the civil servant says, isn't that marvellous money saving? So they spent £30,000 to save £5,000. And they thought that was a marvellous saving of money. That's the way they think. It's reverse logic. They just don't, it's just bonkers, But we've got here, Volton says, hello, David Essex. Hey, who's he? He's a singer, wasn't he? And we got Mark Anthony says, Starmer is no different to the previous puppets put into Downing Street. They are puppets, following the scripted agenda of the hidden hand. That's right. That's it to a T. But Starmer always looks as if he's got a cucumber up his bum, doesn't he? Sort of, I've got a cucumber up my bum, But have you ever seen him laugh? I've only seen one photo of him laugh. I don't think he knows what the humour is. But how do you view the way forward, Paul? I mean, I actually think that it's going to be groups of people telling the government officials to get stuffed and just doing things their own way. And I think that's the way forward. What's your view on that?
Well, I think as long as people keep acting, that sounds completely mindless and sort of pointless. What I've said, but I think actions are important. Getting together with others in little groups to keep the flame of this sort of communication going is very important. To turn it into a fire, because it's needed. The problem we have, I think, is still one of media. Everything's transmitted through words. Ideas get taken up through words. If you've got the machinery to really amplify certain words, it will make an impact on people. It does impinge on all of us. People's attention span is taken up with guff. Imagine how amazing television really could be. It could be. I mean, we've got it in YouTube, but you have to plow around to find all this stuff. But if you were to say, look, there actually is a need for a selection process for the best possible material. And there is, we know when a thing is really produced well, some people basically are going to say things or video things in a more effective way than others. That's what we want. And it's a bit like, how many maths teachers do you need in England? Well, probably one, actually, a really good one. And you just video all the maths things and then people can learn them. You don't need to go to schools and all this kind of stuff like you used to. And this is just another sort of absence in thinking. People have become, obviously, stuck into the way that they live. So you think, well, you have to go to school. But the reason for schools is you needed books. And books have got to have a roof over them, otherwise they rot, right? And so they used to be very expensive to make. And people didn't have books. So that not many people in England would read because there weren't any books around apart from the Bible down the church, and they didn't even want you to read that. So as the sort of power of the librarian has been democratized, what a foul world, but you get the idea, libraries and everything suddenly made it possible for people to go in and say, oh, there's a topic here called guerrilla wrangling 1876. I never knew such a thing even happened. Then you've got that expansion of understanding. And TV, who are the best communicators on TV? Well, the advertisers. Yeah. The advertisers are the best, right? And when you look at what goes into advertising, particularly the psychological market research departments, we need those working for us. That's what we need. We need a whole campaign about cars running on water. That's it. But we need these agencies doing it for us, and you'd get it across. It wouldn't take long at all.
But the government has the best PR our money can buy. That's how they get away with it. Because let's face it, if they didn't have that PR, they would be finished. Like Henry Ford said, if people knew the truth about the banking industry or words to that effect, there'll be a revolution before tomorrow morning. You're spot on. People are kept in ignorance deliberately. And it's a miracle they've actually allowed the internet, because the internet, but they're not allowing so much now because they're already trying to shut down Telegram and they're going to try and shut down Gab as well, which you can say what you like on Telegram, you can say what you like on Gab, but for how long? That's the problem. And also Rumble. That's another one. They almost arrested the CEO of Rumble, didn't they? But he got out of France just in time. He caught the next plane out when he learned that the fella from Telegram had been arrested. Did you hear about that?
I did. Yeah. I mean, it's tricky to know exactly what's going on with all of that kind of stuff. But I think who was that pencil-necked idiot from England who they were saying, oh, if you say something bad in America, we're going to come over and arrest you or something. When they say stuff like that, you realize that they're they're not holding any cards. They're at the end of any idea of how to generally generate consent or agreement from the public. It's breaking down more rapidly than they can rebuild it up. Most of them are people with very little imagination, hardly any. They don't have vision at all. The only sort of view they have is that there's a thing called power around and they want to wield it because they don't want anybody else to wield it. When they've got it, they don't know what to do with it because they haven't got any ideas. They don't think outside of the envelope because they're in it their entire lives. They're system people who are never... literally are going to be incapable. It's just like an engineering fault. You can't solve this problem with the same kind of thinking that created it. And that's what we've got in charge, and they can't solve it. So one of the things maybe for us to communicate to everybody out there that votes and still participates in this thing is stop that. It's silly. It's not going to work. It's never worked your entire lifetime. Stop lying to yourself that it did just because you voted 30 times and it didn't work. Next time we'll get it right. No, you won't. It's not possible to get it right. Stop that dirty habit right now and work with people locally to build engines that run on water. People have got them. I bet there's people somewhere in England right now. Someone's secretly running around in a diesel car that's running on water. But
yes. Yeah. I can almost guarantee that. You're right. But they're frightened to open their mouth because they won't live.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. So how could you create a situation where someone could open their mouth or that information could be made available so that 500,000 people were doing it by next Monday and then 5 million in 3 months' time? It's stuff like that. So
did you hear about that device that a chap, he was on YouTube. Ooh. When was it now? He's getting on a bit. About a couple of months back, I saw him being interviewed by somebody. And I seem to recollect it. I think it was in the 80s or 90s. They came up with this device that you put round your fuel pipe on your car and you'll do incredible better miles per gallon. And the councils took it up and they put it on their vehicles. And it was from a technology from the Second World War that they put on aircraft to increase their range. Then suddenly they had some bad press, and the press went to town and said it doesn't work. And apparently these so-called laboratory tests that they did on this device were all lies, a complete pack of lies, because this chap had the data to prove that it worked. And suddenly it disappeared you couldn't hear of it again. And I seem to recollect that. Did you recollect that, Paul?
Something like that. Yeah, I do actually. I'm sure there's been a lot of devices that could improve the efficiency of all these things. But as we've said, over the last half hour or so, this stuff is all pegged back to the so-called petrodollar, and it's integral part of their money scam. To maintain control over markets and to create demand and blah 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 blah, and it's just a system that's very very old. They're applying, of course, AI technology to it, and we've now got cryptocurrencies. Whatever I mean by I don't know what I mean by that. I haven't got. They've probably got hold of us, but it's just trying to improve a really bad design. It wasn't always a bad design. If we got nothing and we're on an island and we need to get moving quick, getting things going in that way works. But it'll still only work under certain circumstances. You need everything there to make the whole thing click and take off. But it works. But of course, we're still doing it. It's a bit like going to a party. You go, well, the first couple of beers were great. I think we should stop now. But the beer salesman say, no, you got to keep drinking. And that's what it's like on the economy. We've got to keep it growing. We've got to get more. In next year, what about growth? What about economic growth? You're going, but I'm okay. No, we've got to grow. You've got to be taxed, right? We've got to grow. They don't know what to do if that stops. And that's why I find a lot of economic reporting, I think it's a waste of time. What's the point of reading it? Even if it's true, you can't do anything about it. And the main thing is that the engineering problem, right at the heart of it, the banking system, is never talked about. So what's the point? What is the point? It's like a car mechanic who's fixing your car, but he won't look at the fault. He just wants to talk about the windscreen wipers. No, that you're right about the windscreen wiper. The main problem is that the engine doesn't go, yeah, but look at these doors. And it's just always, they're always moving away from the bit that actually needs addressing, because that's where the cheese is, and that's where the control is all the time. Yeah.
Now, Mark Anthony said, I had one of those devices on an old VW Golf I had in the late 90s. They did actually work. Yeah.
Fantastic. Brilliant.
Yes. And I think you could get them back to the Exchange and Mart again. I think you could get them out of the Exchange and Mart. I think they're advertised in that, because that was before the internet, the Exchange and Mart. Fantastic. I used to buy one. It was like a bloody book, wasn't it? It came out every week, was it, or 2 weeks? You get anything in Exchange and Mart. But yeah, I remember that. Yes. Yeah, I remember it. But I mean, my first car was a Morris 1000 Traveller, a wooden wonder. In America, they call them woodies, and that did about 40 odd miles to the gallon, and that was built in the 60s. That car wasn't. It was my first car, and it's still on the road, I believe. I looked it up, the number plate, and the thing is, cars have just not improved with miles per gallon at all. Really, not that much. I mean, my smart.
I guess it might all be worked out, you see, on the basis of keeping countries under control by having them always require a certain amount of fuel to keep their economy ticking over, and that way they can be threatened.
Oh, yes.
That's how it works. That's what interdependence is all about. They were talking about that a lot in books in the 1990s. Interdependence. Stuff that. What about complete independence? Oh, no, can't have that. Can't have nations being completely... I mean, England, here, these islands, we've got everything. We've got everything we need. We've got fish, we've got land, we've got some of the most fantastic land. It's all... I'm not saying the farmers do a bad job. The farmers are just getting kicked around, and then they're going to be blamed for the failure. And it's not right. It's completely not on, you know.
Stalin did that, didn't he? And actually, Starmer is copying exactly the same as what Stalin did. When he got into power, Stalin emptied the prisons so they could put political prisoners in them. And the next thing is going to be gulags. So, you know, so we might be dragged off by the gulags, and that'll make your eyes water, won't it? So we can't have that. But the thing is that the fact of the matter is history does repeat itself. And what we learn from history is we don't learn from history. That's what we learn from it. Because, but you speak to people, I think you're right, Paul. People have got a hatred for Starmer that's deeper than I've ever known before. I haven't met anybody that likes him. Have you?
No.
They're all, you know, he's terrible. But there are people say,
I know, and I've seen a lot. You've probably seen a lot of things as well, Eric, from people saying England's dead. That's not it. It's just not. Right? None of it's gone away. It's all still here. Right? What's happening is the crew that's in are alarmingly muddled, and they're dangerous. They're dangerous because we can't talk to them. Even if you did, they wouldn't listen. That's what's unnerving. When communication literally breaks down, when it's all about them having pride in their ideology, or whatever word, pride's probably the wrong one, but they're committed to it unto death, right? They're going to drag the rest of us with them. And this is because they're incapable of confronting the idea that they're wrong about everything. Everything. Yeah. If you subscribe to communism, you basically need to go and get a mental health check, because there's literally... It is a mental disease, as you've said. It basically says we as human beings can run everything and we know what we're doing. This is such a joke. It's absolutely hilarious. This comes from people who don't even know how their kidneys work or anything. They don't even know what they are. We run around in life. We don't know what we are, but we've got this drive. Hopefully, most of us here have got this drive to be good with our fellow man and to build something up because we sense it works, and it does work. And there's a great joy, and we're willing to work hard and even be put under the cosh a bit, because fighting through on certain things when you get to the other side provides moments of tremendous satisfaction, and you need them, and you're going to have highs and lows in your life. Even if we sort out all the energy problems, there'll be something else, right? But these people are committed to something that literally runs counter to that, and they're so arrogant, and maybe that's not even the right word, they're unwell. You can't say, because whenever you speak to communists, they go, "Oh, it's never been done right." I'm going, how many more bloody goes do you want?
Well,
How many
precisely.
more goes do you know?
Hang on, Patrick's back. So,
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey,
yes, because you were
Yeah.
going to, hang on, you were going to on your, wasn't you? So how
Yes,
is
I was. I was.
a new language, couldn't we? Because
Yeah. I'm at my base station now.
oh, that sounds cool.
I should
Oh,
be
that
coming
sounds
through
cool.
loud and clear now. I'm hearing you.
yeah.
I'm hearing you just fine.
Radio Windmiller.
You sound great, Patrick, now that the show's just towards the end.
I know. I know.
That's the end of it. So, was it Radio Windmiller? What can you tell us a little bit about that? We'll give it a plug.
Oh yeah. Over 100 years of music. Go to radiowindmiller.com and listen to some music. I've got it going right now. So-
Excellent, excellent. Because I'm a bit of a 40s big band enthusiast.
Oh, then you'll love it. You'll
Um,
love it. Yeah, and we've got some 60s soul and all. It goes up to about the 90s, and maybe a few newer stuff tracks, but mostly oldies. Anything on vinyl and shellac, it's kind of a rule of mine. It's got to be a single. I try to make them singles, but
Because
sometimes
you
there's
do
some
it on a
albums in there.
different, was it different frequency, don't you? Are you the person that turns them into a different frequency?
No, that's Paul Biener. He does that. He does the 432 hertz versus the 448 tuning. Yeah, I could do that, but that sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
You'll need a bit of AI to do that for you, Patrick. You just need to load them all up and come back 5 weeks later when they've all been processed, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Paul, we need we need a plug for your show. Now, your show's on Thursday, and it's at, was it 3 o'clock in America? Is that Eastern or Middle Standard? What standard time is
Yeah,
it?
Eastern.
Eastern time,
Eastern
yeah.
Standard
2 p.m. Central,
Central.
which is where
and,
I'm in Central time here.
So, and it's at 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock in Blighty. 8 o'clock in Blighty. Yeah, absolutely.
And, that last
And
week-
you're usually on that. You're usually on it, and so's Patrick. So
Yeah.
it's all very
Yes.
incestuous, isn't it? It's terrible.
Yes.
I don't know
Yes.
what's going on.
You need,
and what
you
I'm
need
gonna-
an announcer. I remember on the BBC they used to have this guy Neil Nunes. He had this real deep voice. You know,
This is the voice of the BBC.
the BBC.
That one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Have you ever seen the film Battle of Britain that was made in 1969? It's basically a fiction.
Bits.
Yeah.
Bits.
And
Yeah.
it's the beginning of that. Yeah. This is the BBC Home Service. You know, it's so
Well, we do need to do all those things. We need a bit of glue and stuff. I mean, it really should be the Fockham Hall. This
We're
is the
getting
Fockham
there.
Hall Radio Broadcasting Corporation. That's what we need.
Fockham Hall Towers.
fuck them all. Yeah,
And now
Well,
let's go over to our patron, Sir Frederick Fockham. Freddie Fockham, you know. And, I
remember
set up
Freddy?
this station with my wife in 1912, that kind of stuff. And we've expanded the business considerably, and we're very glad that you're listening to our delightful programs. You know, that kind of stuff. That's what we need. It'd be marvellous.
it's like what the BBC broadcasts, and this is not rude, it sounds rude, in the early 50s. And I've heard this from several sources. And what happened, you've probably heard it before, Paul, so you know what's coming up. But they used to have a gardening program with the Reverend Cuthbert, or whatever his name was, and a couple of elderly ladies, you know. And the day before, the vicar had actually impaled his finger on a thorn, and and the elderly lady said, live on BBC, "How's your prick, vicar?" And he said, "Oh, it's still throbbing." All innocent and all nice, you know. But the
That's
one,
as bad as Picasso.
well, that's right. But the one I heard, we used to in this country when we had American Air Force bases here. I think we still got a few. Have American. This is long before the internet, and I think it was before I was born. they had the American Forces Network, and they had one in
Yep.
one in
Still do.
Essex. Do they still do it? And what they used to do, it's quite good. They used to raise money for. Now they didn't give it to charities; they actually gave it to the needy. Like, for example, if there's a child that needed a wheelchair or whatever, they'd make sure that child, because I worked with a chap who was evacuated during World War II next to an American Air Force base. And he said the American Air Force made his childhood, because what they did, this country Europe, they didn't make toys during World War II. So the children didn't have any toys. So they put out an appeal, and the American public, they actually gave toys to the children. And he had a train
like
set for the first time in his life.
Toys for Tots.
That's right. And he had chewing gum for the first. He'd never known what bubble gum was. He'd never seen it in his life. He'd seen it on the films, but he didn't know. He'd never, and all different things like that. Anyway, what I was going to say, this American Forces Network, they was raising money for some good cause. And they said, right, we've got aircraft fitter Dwight, what's his name? He's putting in $3 for this film called Crying. Sorry, for this tune called Crying. I don't know who it was by. Ronnie Lane, was it? Crying? I think it was Ronnie Lane. That's how long ago it was. And he was going around all the different, private so-and-so. He's giving $4 for this. And suddenly there's a hell of a hoo-ha in the studio. And it was the Colonel coming. Give me that microphone. So you get my wife has gone off with my best pal, and and that was her favourite record. I'll give $100 not to play that bloody awful record. And you can just imagine him sitting in his office, chewing on his cigar, listening to all people giving this money. And that actually happened, And hang on a minute. It said it was Roy Orbison. No, but I think it was before Roy Orbison. I know.
Yeah, Ronnie Lane.
I know Roy Orbison had Crime, but I think somebody did it before him, didn't he? Because Roy Orbison one was good, but there's a record by Ronnie Lane comes to mind, and I don't know.
What was the single? What was it called?
I think it was called Crying.
Crying, yeah. Okay.
I think it was, but it was long before I was born. But I've heard that from all different people who are listening into the American Forces Network, because people talk about the pirate ships, but there's also the American Forces that play good music as well, and that's why the BBC didn't get that many listeners.
Well, have you heard the history of email? I listened to these old World War II broadcasts. They used to have a thing called V-mail.
Really?
You ever hear about V-mail?
No.
It was a way to send messages to troops in a cheap way, and they'd put it on microfilm. They'd take pictures of all these different.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I assume that's the precursor to email. Is the V-mail, V for victory.
V-mail, because my father,
the armed military forces.
He was in Malta during the war, and of course they're hearing about the Blitz and the bombing of London, and he was worried about his parents that lived in London, and he used to send through something where you only allowed a sentence, I think it was, and it was done telegraph, something. I know it's very, very clever. I think someone tapped it out on a telegram thing. Cost a fortune, cost a lot of money in those days. So someone would go dee 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 dee. I think they do it in Morse code or something like that.
Yeah.
But that was before the siege just had begun, because it's relatively peacetime conditions for the first month or two when he went there, and then suddenly the Italians started bombing the place. So that was the end of that. But there's another one called a bluey, wasn't there, that they used to send? Something that they used to send, but I didn't know they actually microfilmed letters.
They would microfilm letters, that way they could put it on an airplane a lot. It wouldn't weigh down the airplane.
Good heavens. That's intriguing. Yeah.
Precursor to email, because as the name goes, it naturally they rhyme at least.
Well, I suppose they must have done that up to when the email started. It must have been quite recently in many ways. It's only been with us about, 25 years, something like that. So they might have...
Probably longer than that. They probably had it.
Yeah, they probably had it back then.
And DARPA would have had it in the 70s, I reckon. Probably something like that.
Well, I think we come to the end of the show. So how would you like to towel off, Paul or Patrick? Who wants to speak first? So what message would you like to give to our listeners or viewers?
Well, I'll go first. Just listen to us on Thursdays on radiosoapbox.com on our show. It's fun little get together at 8.
It's almost as fun as this one, isn't it?
Yeah,
it
exactly.
is.
Yeah,
it's almost as fun as it.
Yeah. And still my smart and fart humour. I still put that, although it's a little bit limited on that one because it's a family show, isn't it?
Well,
rightly so. We've got to have some decorum.
What is it? Is it soapboxradio.com? Am I right there?
Radiosoapbox.com.
Radiosoapbox.com.
Yeah, we're going to turn it into a proper radio station soon. It's just been it picks up stuff and it's not particularly structured as it needs to be, but we're going to get there. I've been doing a bit of work on it today. I had to take some time off looking at things like radio station automation because it did my head in, and I just needed a break, which has been a lot of fun actually. But we're just going to sort it out pretty quickly, and we need to get you wound into there in a slightly more technically efficient way. I mean, you're going out over it now, but it's all a bit bumblesome. But we're doing it anyway. We're trying to remove. We need to automate stuff because there's so much work to do, and it's kind of. It gets in the way, all this kind of stuff. You need software to work for you and not to end up doing lots of things on software, and it often goes that way if you don't know what you're doing. So that's what it. But sorry.
I have an embarrassing Rumble problem. We could go into it. I don't know what it is about Rumble. You'll go on there and you'll broadcast perfectly for a couple of weeks, and suddenly it all goes up the spout. I just don't know why. I'm wondering whether it's their software. I just don't know. Every bad workman blames his tools, but maybe it's something I'm doing. I don't know. But last night, I don't think you could have had a worse program. Poor old Nathan Allenby. He was speaking through my telephone, and I was holding my smartphone up to the speaker. That's how bad, it was. But I don't know what it is about Rumble. I think it might. I don't know what it is. It's weird, but the chat didn't work either. So
other than that, it was perfect.
Oh, it was brilliant, absolutely marvelous. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight. It's been a great show. I really enjoyed it. Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, thank you.
And
let me just say something else here. As Volton's just asked, and so just to go over the details. There's radiowindmiller.com, which is 100 years of music. Patrick means that literally, right? There's enough music in the archive to play it for 100 years without any track repeating. Okay, that's how much music there is there. It's just tons of it, rivers of tunes, and it's all interesting stuff. Radio Soapbox sometimes picks that up. In fact, it does, and runs it for a couple of hours each day as interlude stuff. We're going to try and work this up a bit tighter.
Yep.
The Soapbox is radiosoapbox.com, and that is a radio thing. And it normally picks up WBN. You'll hear a lot of Alex Jones, Shouty Man, and stuff. But Windmiller's on there. My show's on there at 8 p.m. on Thursdays. That's UK time. And if you want to find out other places to interact with my show, I'm really bigging it up now, aren't I? Go to paulenglishlive.com. You'll find a link to Rumble. And Rumble is where we get most of the action. We'll get 60, sometimes 70 or 80 people in there on the chat. They're all pretty active, a lot of typing going on. And we do our best to read out some of the more pithy comments and stuff like that. And you can call into the show, although very few people have done recently. But you should big it up and call in and ruin our show. Just come in with some completely irrelevant, pointless comment because it'd be great fun. And so that's kind of what we do. And Eric's shows are going to be wound into Soapbox a bit more. And,
thank you very much.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. We've just got to try.
once I've sorted out this problem with Rumble, what I really want with Rumble is a person who can speak for an hour, and then we have a round table, and several of us will sort of discuss what the person has said. Like this is what I planned last night, to have Nathan Allenby on, and he speak for an hour, and then we sit round and we sort of talk about what he's actually said, and other guests that are coming on and things like that. And you break the show up with music, I think, which is a good idea, and this is what I'm hoping to do. I think I think because then you got time to go to the loo and put the kettle on, and put the cat out and all things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, we could
there.
play out with some music right now. I think we probably could, but I can't find this Ronnie Lane track that you were talking about. I was looking for it. I've done a search on Ronnie Lane. I don't know which one you were talking about.
I'll play out with the usual one, which Deb did, which is
all right. Okay.
Good one. But thank you very much, and whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh, and good night.
Thanks, Eric.